Mark, if you're happy as host that we will start now. So can I say to everybody, as chair of the Thetford Town Council Planning Committee, welcome to our last meeting for 2020, and I'm going to proceed straight into the agenda. And the first item is number 588, and this is declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interest. And I point out, as has been mentioned in previous chit-chat by one councillor, I'm happy to take it specifically at a time. If you just have a particular interest, you want to declare it when we get to the item, that's fine as well. But any now, please. And hearing none, I'm going to go on to 589, apologies for absence. I wonder whether...
I have no apologies, Chair.
Apologies, please.
No.
Chris, somebody received an apology. Well, I received an apology from Dave Hodgkinson.
Okay, thanks. I'll make them a note of that. Thank you.
Add that onto the list, please.
Thank you. Yep.
And I think you said there weren't any others.
I haven't got any now.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So we're progressing very nicely. This is a rapid speed, good start. 590 is the minutes of the last meeting held on the 10th of November, and that they have been received by full council. We just have to agree that it's a correct record, a true record of what we said at the time. And I just point out that, well, let's go through it. And I think Roy's going to make a comment at some stage. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, Roy.
No, not at all. I'd just like to make a comment, that's all.
Okay, so looking at the minutes of the last meeting, can we bring these up on the screen?
Yes, it is on the screen, Chair.
Oh, it's not on mine, but I'll that's okay.
No,
it's not mine either, Chris, at the moment.
Oh, is it not?
No, I haven't got it.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got it CC at the minute.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Is that pen?
If you have got a problem, then I can probably request control and show mine if it's not going to work. In the meantime, Chair, there's a hands up from Jen Hollis.
Jen, would you like to say a word?
I've just got a complete blank screen, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we've all got that at the moment. We're just
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
I'll try once more.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is that there now?
Yeah, I've got it.
Come on. Thanks,
Yes,
Chris.
it's there now.
That's progress.
So this is the meeting, Chair, from last month.
As it flashes by you, colleagues, are there any requirements to change, any suggestions as to inaccuracy, particularly on 496, which is the applications to consider, and then the late applications coming up? This got as far as the consultation at sea with the Lotus Academy proposal. Uh, 30 miles an hour zone, government white paper, Greater Thetford Partnership. Okay, I'm not hearing from anyone. Roy, have you got a general comment or a specific comment?
Yeah, it purely and simply that obviously that was at a very strange time for me, and I couldn't quite understand why the proposals for the reduced speed limit came to planning. I was sort of expecting it at full council, but I just wanted to say how much I thank the support of the committee to go down the road, because you know, we're into the next stage of anybody that wants to complain. So it's really nice that we did actually get it somewhere and show the support of the committee. And I just wanted to say thank you.
That's much appreciated. I suppose we get away with it partly because we are a committee of the full council, so all councillors are entitled to attend this committee automatically. And also, I think it's fair to say that this council proposed that we should have a 30 miles an hour speed limit across Thetford, and that was, sorry, this committee proposed that, and that was the first time it had been proposed as far as I'm aware. So it's kind of come full circle. It started here and it appears to have finished here, but you're quite right, it does concern the full council, and I think the excuse is that this is a committee of the full council. And thanks for everyone's efforts, and yours in particular, Roy. I know that county council has been busy on this, and other officers and councillors as well. I think it's a tremendous win for Thetford, and I think we're all delighted that it's been relatively painless and, believe it or not, relatively quick, because I can remember wanting to get from 40 down to 30 on Croxton Road, and it took us years and years, decades. It took us 10 years to do it. So this is world-beating speed. I've not heard any comments that would indicate that colleagues want to change or correct the minutes of the Planning Committee of the 14th of November. So therefore, can I just ask once more, are there any objections if I say it's ready to be signed now? Are you any disagreement with that?
Chair, I have got a hand up somewhere, but I can't see whose it is. So if you have got a hand up and still want your hand up, it may be worth speaking at this point. And could I ask for the future if you could use the chat if possible, or speak, because I can't, as I said, I can't always see whose hand is up. If it was +5.
If it was a visual hand, Roy was temporarily massaging his forehead. I don't know whether that.
There's a hand up symbol somewhere. As I said, but because it's one of the +5, I can't actually see who it is. So as I said, if anybody still wants their hand up, speak now, I guess. And if you have got your hand up and don't want it up, perhaps you could remove
last chance, please. If there's anyone who wants to speak, I'll give you 5 seconds, and you know, without me yakking, and then you can take the opportunity to plunge in, because we're not seeing where the hand's coming from.
For clarity, it's actually Mr. Cunnells.
Oh, that was him when he was saying. Just saying.
In that case, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to suggest that we have completed the review of the minutes at 590, and they will now be signed or initialed. So on to 591, which is the planning applications, and at this point, I'm going to invite Mark to take the first of these, which is probably 1260.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as you may be aware, this is a variation on previous conditions. And before I launch into this, I should just say that this afternoon I've had another email saying that they now wish to vary the variation and actually go back. The applicant has decided to revert to the original permission for the materials to the front elevation of the property, so not the planking, going back to as it was before, and has provided attached plans showing the rear elevation to be considered. So basically, it's rendering at the back as in the plans that are. So what you're looking at now is he has basically reverted to that proposed front elevation. So it's new facing brickwork to match. And if we could have the next slide, Chris, thank you. And so, as I said, that front elevation that you're looking at there, you can ignore, and the proposed rear elevation, they do wish to go for the rendered surface. So that is a grey render on the back, so it won't be sort of seen from the roadside. So if you were ready to make a comment on the hardy planking, you can put that aside because they no longer wish to go for that.
Can you just remind us, Mark, please, since it's not hardy planking, is it now back to brickwork, or is it something else?
Yeah, it's back to brick as it was in the previous permission. So yeah, basically it's as you were on the front elevation.
Thank you very much. Any comments, colleagues, for either for the front, which is now perhaps more in keeping with the rest of the estate, or for the back, which is, as you can see, the blanking?
Not seeing any hands up or.
So deafening silence. Okay, can I propose then, colleagues, that we support this proposal and make it plain that we are supporting the second revision, which is brick at the front, together with the planking at the rear.
The render at the rear, Chair.
So I'm sorry, so sorry. I can't even tell what I'm looking at the front and talking about the back. So thank you for correcting that. It's rendering at the rear, which by and large is not going to be seen by passers-by. It doesn't make a big statement for the estate. Everyone happy with that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Jane's got a thumb up, and we've had one comment. Sounded to me like Brenda. Okay. I think we take that as agreed then, Mark. And in that case, can we go on to the second plan, which is 1313? I'm hoping that if ward councillors feel strongly about any of these, they will speak up, because I think they do need to make sure that their voice is heard. It's your ward, and you are you're the person that your ward members, your ward population rely on. Okay, on to 1313 then, please, Mark.
Yep. So we're on the sort of Admiral's Way, corner of Benbow Road. So the proposed extension is visible on the sort of top right of your screen there, and it goes in the area. If we could just move up very slightly, Chris, to see the photo. So we're looking at a small extension as it is on the side of the property there. It's slightly more sort of ivy covered and such now, I believe. But basically, that small extension that you're looking at on the side is to be replaced by a larger one. So if we can move on to the next slide. So they're a bit faint, I'm afraid, but basically you can see on the left there, and again that's looking at that sort of side of the house there, you can see the small extension on the left there, which is existing, and then on the right there's an extension which is 2 stories, and it's basically sort of almost the size of the existing house. If we could go on to the next one, please. So that was, again, what it would look like from sort of the rear of the house. Again, a small extension on the left there, as is at the moment, and on the right, the replacement. And I think there's one more slide to look at on this. So yeah, so these are both the proposed now on the left and right. On the left is the ground floor, so the extension there with the dining room and utility room on the right, and then similarly you're looking at the above that, so basically extra bedroom with ensuite in that extension on the top bit there. Yeah, okay, back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from members of the committee, please? I've just seen Jane. Would you like to comment, please? And maybe others, please make yourself known, but Jane first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd suggest that it looks completely in keeping with the area. It doesn't infringe too much on towards that boundary. It's a smaller increase, obviously, but it looks quite a sympathetic and in keeping extension. Thank you.
So you would be happy for us to be supporter? Yep. Any more comments, please? I'd welcome, in a sense, I'd welcome anyone who doesn't agree, because we see that there is another side. It may be that everybody agrees, of course.
Agree. So Jeremy?
Yep. In that case, I think what we're saying is that we support 1313. As Jane says, it's quite a limited further pushing out towards the boundary, and perhaps a much more acceptable front. So let's support that and move on to 1321, please, Mark.
Yep. Okay. So Burns Close. So we're looking at sort of just off Woodlands Drive there. So the picture that the photograph you can see there with the blue garage door, the extension that you can see on the left there, that blue arrow on that diagram on the left shows the sort of basically the view of the photograph. So the proposed extension is basically behind the garage. This is just a single story one, so it basically wouldn't be seen really from the street at all. So it's a single story extension behind that existing garage. Can we have the next slide, please, Chris? So there's as I say, the pictures on the left there show as is, and then the extension. Those top two drawings are looking at from the side, and then you can see the rear elevation where that extension would sort of pop in behind the garage, and there's a sort of quite a detailed plan of you know, what would be involved, including all the plumbing for this one actually, of inside the extension room on the right.
Okay, thank you. So unlikely to be seen from the road. Any comments, please, colleagues?
Support.
Yeah, I think that probably just about sums it up, doesn't it? One thumb and one for. I'm going to suggest, colleagues, that we simply support this. Anyone disagree with supporting it? Okay, I think we take that as agreed. So we've dealt now with 20 Burns Close and move on to 1336, which is Woodlands, isn't it?
Yep, so just around the corner from the previous one. Basically, hopefully you've had a chance to sort of see the covering letter. So this is a conversion of an existing garage into a beauty salon. You can see the hours of opening proposed there. So they point out that in terms of parking, they don't actually use the garage at the moment. There would be remain a parking space in front of the garage, and there's also a sort of long extended lay-by, which is that picture on the bottom right of your screen there, of available public parking just nearby, which would be on the map on the left, the large green area to the left of the red property boundary is Frederickswood, and that sort of slightly triangular shaped a green bit is the photograph you can see. So that's where the parking area, public parking area would be. Yeah, can we go on to the next slide? So the garage is marked in yellow on the top right there and sort of shaded on the diagram on the left. And you're basically looking at the right hand side of those two garages you can see on the photo on the bottom right. So that is, as I said, the two garages there. The left hand side one with the car parked in front of it is for the corner house, and we're talking about the one on the right, which, as I say, is shaded. And we have a comment from Councillor Terry Jeremy, if you're ready, Chair.
Yes, that's fine, thank you. Terry, are you with us, and are you wishing to comment now?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm just about with it.
It wasn't that way. I apologise. I haven't seen your name or initials yet on my screen. So this is
right. To be truthful, I was finishing my tea, but don't worry. The only thing I was going to say is that I know that area reasonably well. The entrance to Burns Close there. I mean, I personally don't like seeing conversions of this sort, but, you know, I accept it's increasingly happening. The only concern I would have is that entrance onto Burns Close is quite heavily congested at the best of times. So in terms of, I think they call it visibility display, where you sort of come out, you've got the road, Woodlands Drive, a sort of downhill, which is a known sort of speeding area. And my concern would be, as you see the map on the screen at the moment, cars parking on the bend of the entrance to Burns Close and sort of adding to areas. So I'd just be a little bit nervous, and I appreciate Highway's comments about what might be done to stop cars parking along that section and adding to the issues with Burns Close. But that's just my sort of local knowledge of the area, adding to the comment there.
Jane, you have a hand up. Next, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo Terry's concerns there, because I'm familiar with round there as well, and yeah, it's quite a bottleneck. My other concern is regards that public car parking space further up, as we often find out the path of least resistance is normally what is chosen by people, and particularly parking as close as possible, and anything that tends to involve a walk doesn't tend to get used. The other side of things is the opening hours that I can see on the application. I understand are for some evenings at 8 o'clock. Sorry, bear with me a second. I did have that.
Yeah, that's correct. Wednesday until 8.
Which,
Thursday until 8:30.
bearing in mind that the challenges that some of our older estates face, and even our newer ones, where we have multiple car families, that public parking space is utilised by local residents. And I would be concerned that those 2 later night ones would actually impact on the ability for people to park near their own homes. So I do have concerns about the proposed opening hours on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hands up from Councillor Hollis.
Jen, would you like to make a comment, please?
Yeah, it was basically endorsing what Terry and Jane have said. The opening times are a concern because of that being a residence parking area, especially in the evenings, and there's a Saturday there as well. If they would get in parking with the residents using their parking areas, it's quite a busy parking area, if you like, during the evenings and that. I've walked that way many a time. But we do have up there, which was given permission as a thing, is we do have a beauty salon up that way.
We do have a beauty salon up that way. I can't remember the date, the exact location, unfortunately, but we did give some support for that some time ago.
Yes, it's been there quite a long time, Mr. Chairman, and that is on the Woodlands as well.
Yeah. Well, we have the option, I suppose, of asking highway or pointing out that highways should be looking at this and perhaps drawing their attention to the issues that the 3 councillors who've spoken so far have raised about the difficulty of visibility if parking actually takes place in front of the house, which it clearly is liable to do, and the difficulty of using a parking space which is used heavily at the weekend and in the evening by residents who quite rightly want to get as close as they can to their home. We could oppose this on those grounds. We could support asking highways to look carefully at this issue. I'm not sure whether that has very much effect because we have the local knowledge. My feeling is that if those 3 councils want to stand their ground, we should oppose this on the grounds of the local knowledge that we have about congestion of parking and the difficulty of visibility on that corner. Is that a fair comment of where we've got to so far? Does anyone want to either agree with that or disagree with that?
Sorry, John, I've had my hand up for a while.
Yeah, sorry. Again, as I say, if you can use the chat, sorry, Kaz, I can't see whose hand is up if it's one of the +6. So, if possible, use the chat. And we've got also one from Councillor James again after that. But yeah, sorry about that. But I can only see what I can see, I'm afraid.
I can't use the chat then. So is it me now then?
Yes.
I think so. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Take you, Chris, and then Jane.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would abstain and not vote on or comment on this due to the fact my wife has a hairdressing salon in the town, and I don't want to, get in any problems whatsoever.
Thank you very much for that, Jane. Jane, did you have?
Apologies, just a little bit slow doing the unmute. There is also some disparity. I know that on the application form itself, they actually say other out of the above times see attached letter, but they actually state within the application that it's 9:30 to 2:30 Monday to Friday, and actually there is adequate opportunity to put in those spaces the additional stuff. Whilst it's been put on in the accompanying letter, I am concerned that it's not actually on the application itself. Thank you.
That would mean, Mark, I think Mark Webster, that we would have to draw the attention of the planning, draw the attention of the planning committee that there's a lack of clarity, to put it polite. The application, the formal application says early afternoon finish. The letter says 8 o'clock on Wednesday and 8:30 on Thursday, and also, of course, there's alternate Saturdays. So that's all time.
Councillors Hollis and Barreto.
Okay, let's see if they want to reinforce the point. So, Jen, would you like to go first, then Carla?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My my thoughts are we are acting on the times of the planning, not the cover letter, because we've got the actual planning application and the times are on that, and that's what we've got to work by, not a covering letter. So I'm going to stick to my thing. Yeah, I've got concerns about the parking, etc., and the times.
It might be possible, I think that's a shrewd comment, it might be possible for Mark to indicate in any comments we make that that these hours would be acceptable if they are adhered to. We had another comment to come, and I'm ashamed to say I've forgotten who it was.
Carla,
Mr. Chairman.
Carla, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to make a comment that while I hear the other councillors, and I agree, if parking is an issue, it should be addressed. Perhaps we can work with the applicant in this to try to find hours of business that suit a bit the quieter times, and so that we don't sort of interfere with the parking of the residents. But I would be reluctant to actually dismiss the application altogether, because I wouldn't want to discourage anybody from actually starting a business and making a living. If that means that they build a salon at home to save costs and to earn away, I wouldn't want to be against that, particularly because if there's already a salon similarly in that area, there's already a precedent of having a business running in that type of setting. But that's my opinion anyways. Thank you.
Thank you. We're getting a fairly strong commonality amongst the comments that are made. Are there any further comments, please, that either support the general view that's being taken or oppose? Okay, so perhaps we've had our say. I wonder whether, Mark, you've got sufficient you've had time to write that up so that we can come to an agreement about how we actually want to state this.
Okay, Chair. So first of all, we need to decide whether it's either support, object, comment, or no comment. So you do need to choose one of those for the submission via the website. In terms of the comments, am I correct in saying that councillors basically would be happy to support a salon operating within the hours as stated on the application form, but would not be prepared to support a salon operating at evenings or weekends? Is that the feeling of
we need to cover the issue of parking as well, don't we? I wonder whether we ought perhaps to suggest, for what it's worth, that we think there should be an attempt to prevent parking on that splay, maybe with double yellow lines. Is that worth considering?
There's no comment from Highways as yet on this one, so I think we would have to sort of to wait and see what they say. I mean, I can certainly include a comment that that road is busy with parking, especially at evening and weekends, and it's a known area where speeding takes place and around that bend, and therefore you feel that provision would need to be made for ensuring that the level of obstruction in that area does not increase, something like that.
I think we do need to include something like that, but the simple reason that that's our job. Norfolk Highways and Breckland Planning Committee will not be aware of that local knowledge. It's really up to us to make it plain that that's the local concern. So if you can come up with a form of words there, Mark, I think that'd be helpful.
Yes, I mean, I can, as I said, include the comments regarding speeding in the area, the fact that it's sort of downhill and round the bend, and therefore you feel that, as I said, that additional parking in the area would be problematic. But as I said, I still just need a clear steer on whether it's support, object, or simply comment.
Can I suggest that we object on the grounds that I think it's more likely to be taken seriously if we say that? I'm just guessing to some extent, but I would be a bit concerned that if we agree it, then they'll say, oh, well, basically they're in favour, so let's not worry too much about the details. We have to some extent fight our corner on that kind of detail. We are responsible for trying to make sure that the safety of the other residents and the ability of the other residents to find easy parking where they have been accustomed to is maintained.
Okay, is that is that going to a vote or?
Oh, I'm going to ask.
Comment from Councillor Hollis. I would be objecting on the grounds of parking.
Okay. So, if Jenny, did you want to add something more?
I'm just concerned, one, about the parking, where it's located, and also that how that road is very busy, especially at school pickups.
Yeah.
Because people will park down that way and walk over to the Admiral schools and round to the Drake schools, and that it's horrendous on that estate and the Fairfields for parking. It's ridiculous. So I'm literally objecting to it because of the parking.
Yeah.
Chair, would you like me to call a vote?
Well, let's on this occasion do the rare thing and do that, please, Chris. Yes,
Sure.
I think that would just.
So I'm going to go through. I think I've got everybody who's present, so I'm going to call it now. So it's Councillor Barretto. For or against, please.
I would be abstaining. Our reservations are being against this.
Yeah. Are we all clear what we're voting for? So we're saying, excuse me, we're saying we are for. We're in favour in principle, or we're against in principle, and you will be if you're concerned about the parking or the hours, you might like to consider whether the simplest thing is just to say you're not in favour of the whole thing. So, having said that, we've got Carla's. Would you like to go on, please, Chris?
So that's against, yeah. So Councillor Brame.
Abstain.
No, I'm sorry. This is abstaining.
Sorry, you were abstaining, Councillor Barretto. Yeah. I've got then. I'll leave the chair to last. Councillor Harvey.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Hollis.
Against.
Yeah. Councillor James.
Objection on the grounds of parking.
Yeah. And Councillor Jeremy.
Against, please.
Yeah. So I've got 4 against and 2 abstentions from the. Oh, that's it. I think there's nobody else there, is there?
Yeah, I'm here, Chris. That's Stuart.
Sorry, Stuart. Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah, I'm against.
Can I call your name? What are you going to do?
Against.
Against. Sorry, but that's a clear vote of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against and 2 abstains.
So that's great. Thank you, everyone. And we can send a clear message then about that. And Mark, I'll leave you to concoct the words on that one. So I think we can move on now. So looking at item 592, this is late planning applications received.
Hands up, Councillor Brame.
Roy, did you want
Just on that vote, there was 3 abstentions because I abstained. I don't vote on anything to do with planning.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Roy,
sorry, I've got that down as again. Sorry.
Roy, you are correct. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I think the first 3 voters all abstained. So
thank you.
Having established that we have still got a clear majority.
Yes. Yeah.
So therefore, that's the way we're playing it. And we're going to move on to 592. Sorry, yeah, 592, which is the late planning application, and this is a super late planning application. Mark, over to you to explain it, please.
So I don't know whether everyone's had a chance to check their emails yet. If you have, you should find in your inbox the application from Tanner House on Tanner Street for I haven't got pictures up, Chris. If people would like, I can request control and then I can show you documents. However, I think, as I said, if everyone's got their Outlook open, then you should be able to see the documents yourself. You
can go and get on if you like, Mark.
Yeah, let's just yeah.
I've come out of it.
It's not going to let me share now because I think if you actually Sorry, if you want to go back, Chris, to where you were, and then I can request control. Has everyone seen the documents though? I might not need to do this. If everyone's got their had a chance to have a look at their emails at the last minute, then you should hopefully have the documents yourself, and I can sort of talk through without needing to actually sort of change the thing. We've got hands up from Councillor James at the moment.
Yes, if I may, Chair, is that okay?
Yep.
Sorry. I actually welcome this. It might be because I am perhaps using the car park a little more often at the moment. But at present, there is a chainmail fence with plastic sheeting on it, some of which is up, some of which is down. Really doesn't look attractive. And I'm sure, as we're all very, very much aware, the ALP and this ALP committee and this council are doing an incredible amount of work to try and get, you know, the street furniture tidy, improve our area. We have wonderful volunteers that do the litter picking and that kind of thing, and the weeding, and then we have this. And actually, I think the building of this brick wall, if it is in keeping with the aesthetics as I understand it to be, is actually a welcome addition and would actually enhance that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is, in fact, it's a flint wall, isn't it, with brick pillars and probably a brick a top. So
yeah, if you have a look on your the design and access statement, which is the Tanner House 2 document that I've sent you, the picture on the first page is the current situation, and then on page which is 3, there is a picture of what they're suggesting as how they would like it to be. There's a series of hands up, starting with Councillors Jeremy, Wright, and then Councillor Harvey agree with Jane.
Terry, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I was just going to say I very much welcome this, and it's particularly refreshing to get an application that features a flint wall being installed rather than being removed. So you know, I'm very pleased to see this application, and I think we should support it.
Thank you very much. Stuart?
Yes, whilst I echo the sentiments of Councillor James and Jeremy, I'm just a little concerned in the flint wall pillars being made of red brick, whereas Tanner House itself is of the white, the greys, and one would feel it'd be nice to have that in sympathy with the building of Tanner House as materials as well. I know we've got Riversdale next door, which is a red brick, and the Argos sort of paraded shops are more modern, lighter brick. But I think if we could put forward that instead of red brick pillars, more Thetford greys or whites that would be in keeping with Tanner House, I think would be nice to see.
Would it? Have we not met this issue before? Perhaps even with the Cottage Hospital. Is there a concern about the availability of Thetford greys? Although there's no, we could certainly ask for a substitute grey, but I think the so-called Thetford grey, which starts as yellow, doesn't it? May well not be available.
Something more, a modern version of that.
Okay.
Something that is more in keeping colour-wise with the Tanner House.
We could certainly add in a request that the red brick be reconsidered. That grey or yellow would be, or I think you said grey or white would be more suitable, more in keeping, and it certainly would. Chris Harvey, did you want to add to that? Is Chris Harvey here, please? Did you want to make a comment, please, Chris?
His comment on the chat, Chair, was agree with Councillor James, basically.
Right, thank you.
And also Councillor Barretto agreed with James as well.
Thank you for both of those. I think fundamentally we're there. The fundamental issue is, yes, we support it, and thanks for leading off on that, Jane. And is there a general feeling that Stuart Wright's comment that we should go for a suggestion of grey or white bricks rather than red brick, would that be welcome as well? We have at least one thumbs up, so that's two colleagues in total.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, I'm having trouble getting into my chat. I'm losing everything if I go into my chat, but I fully agree with what's been said. Thank you.
You carry on, please, Jen.
Yeah, I just agree with what's been said and agree with what Stuart said about the brick as well.
Right, thank you. I think that's almost a majority in favour of the second issue, the colour of the bricks, and certainly a majority in favour of the principle of supporting. So I think, Mark, if we end up with saying we're strongly in support of the flint wall, we would welcome a decision, the use of white or grey bricks rather than red, which would be more in keeping with Tanner House, which actually is a listed building. So presumably there could be complaints from the listed building people if they want to about a failure to match up there. It's a possibility. I think we'd be.
Of course, this is a new one. They haven't got the historic building consultants' comments on there yet. So
exactly, they may well make the same point, but perhaps if we get in first, that would do no harm. Okay, colleagues, I think we'll take that as a majority in favour both of the development and of Stuart's proposed change to it. So I'm going to return to Mark and say we're at 593 now. Decisions of variance. Are there any, please?
No decisions of variance to report. Just worth note that the Forest Retail Park coffee shop and the fried chicken place, that has been approved. So as I said, just a note, there's a high profile site that's gone through, but nothing of variance.
Thank you very much indeed. And on to 594, items to be referred to the Greater Thetford Partnership. This is an item we put on the agenda every month. We don't always have to refer additionally, but I'll take suggestions, comments either from colleagues on the committee or indeed from those colleagues on the committee who represent us on the Greater Thetford Partnership. Are there any, please?
Hands up from Councillor Wright, followed by Hollis.
Stuart?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of matters that we hopefully get our officer to look into. One is obviously the sale of the Croxton estate. I think colleagues may have seen that happening. Crown Estate are selling it to the Forestry Commission, which means Forestry are going to be looking into ways of using it for both leisure and in, timber production. I just think if we get in there early, that we can put a marker down in to say that we want to see it developed as much as a green lung for Thetford rather than just purely a High Lodge centric add-on. This would fit into the long-term river project of reopening the river, creating better access along the river corridor, but also the walking cycling provision between the town and the forest. I think we need to get in there early and start talking to them about what their plans are and what Thetford's needs are. So often there's a case that the forestry look to create things around High Lodge rather than looking to Thetford as a place for it to be incorporated within the whole scheme of things. And linked to that is something else that's been happening recently is this development of slow ways. This is creating a network of slow ways with across the country, so there's a more pleasant walking environment. And again, colleagues will probably remember my letter to the Great Thetford Partnership about the lack of progress we've seemed to have got with the walking and cycling provision. And if this is happening, I think we need to be part of that and using them to help us support our cause, such as especially to the east of Thetford, where you've got Nettishall there, and we've got very little provision to join Thetford to Nettishall, which is the start of the long distance path, but also other facilities at Nettishall. So I think, again, it's all very linked, but if we can get the Great Thetford Partnership manager having words with those two organisations, I think it might be useful.
Thank you very much. And a comment from Councillor Hollis. Jen, are you ready now?
I was just wondering, will we be having a meeting with the young man that's took over the Great Thetford just for an update? I know we get very good updates from Councillor Jane, Stewart and Robertson, but I just wondered if there was any chance that there would be another meeting with the young man that's took over the spot.
Would anyone like to answer that, please?
I'm more than happy to, as one of the Thetford Town Council representatives on the GTP. At this stage, I don't believe there is any plans for a further meeting with him. I have to say he's incredibly busy out there engaging with our stakeholders and various parties, which is exactly what we agreed to fund him for that role for. I'm mindful that we have had another update and I don't think I've circulated it to you all, so I will get that sorted out and hopefully that will cross off some of the things that have been raised. Stuart, I'll take on board those bits and pieces and probably pick up a bit more and pick your brains a bit more if I may.
Yes, thank you.
The updates from Jack Weaver are very useful, and I think my experience is that they've been well written, so they're pretty informative. So I wonder whether at the moment you would be content, Jen, just to continue to receive those printed updates. And yes, we might perhaps like to see him maybe on the basis of once a year, something like that. But obviously, he clearly is spending a great deal of time networking with a great deal of with a very fine range of organisations, and pulling them in to take an interest and maybe even a financial interest in Thetford. That seems highly desirable. I don't want to upset his work, but you're quite right. We need to make sure that the channels of communication are very clear and understood. He is reporting regularly. I think you said updates, Jane. They're pretty good, I think, pretty clear and helpful.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The updates have been very good, and I agree. Taking him away from what he's doing is be silly. So yeah, maybe we've just arrange a meeting, maybe once a year or something with him for.
Okay.
A good talking. Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Jen. Any more comments on item 594, the Greater Thetford Partnership, please? If not, pausing. Okay, so looking at 595 next, which is Paris Partnership to receive a proposal. I think actually there may be more than one, but would anyone like to start us off with proposals for the Paris Partnership scheme between Norfolk and parishes and towns?
I've got hands up from Councillor Wright. Did you? I did have a little update if there are any schemes that require funding. I've got a basic little statement from Alan regarding sort of where funding might come from if and when that's relevant, Chair. But yeah, Councillor Wright, hands up at the moment.
Can I suggest, Mark, that you say that first, just to clarify where we're coming from, because I think this is relevant to any consideration. Even if there are two or three.
Yeah. So, as I said, just a clarification from Deputy Town Clerk. So basically, he's saying that if anything is to be added from any project to be added from funded from reserves, the following will need to happen. The 2021-22 budget will need to be revised and the project added to the list of projects in this budget. And we understand that only the full council can amend that budget what's been previously approved. The reserve from which the project is intended to be used will need to be identified. So we need to actually say which of the many reserves that the town council has would be used for this, and that the use of that reserve would then have to be approved by the relevant committee or by full council if the reserve is already allocated for specific purposes. So he's also saying that adding to the precept seems unlikely from a timing perspective at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I hope that's not too discouraging, but having laid down the ground rules, or some ground rules, they can be challenged, but that's a suggestion. Come back to you, Stuart, and let you go first.
Yes, so obviously we've talked about the Brandon Road drop curb, which is pretty poor if that's the only thing we can do. I did request about the Green Lane one, and I understand David Jackman was pricing it, but I've not seen anything further come back in respect of that. But one thing that I have been going on about for many years is the pathway from the Bladen Bridge to join the Priory Path. It gets well used by walkers coming from both the Abbey Estate and from Redcastle Estate coming along there, and also when the park run is in progress. And there's a real health and safety issue on the Bladen Bridge approach. And I just thought that, this would be the ideal opportunity to get, whilst the park run's not happening, we can get work done in a quiet period. But also with the walking and cycling provision, the river corridor all fits. And I was really pleasantly surprised that David Jacklin actually came back with a price for this scheme and was supportive of the idea. And a breed and gravel track rather than harsh tarmac because of the sympathy needed for the river. And the cost of the scheme was going to be £18,000, which obviously we would need to trump up half of that, which would be 9, and quite clearly we don't have that in our budget at the present. But I would strongly urge the council to consider taking 9,000 from the general reserve pot, because this may not get the go-ahead from Norfolk once the list of projects go forward. But if we can start to lever in money from Norfolk to deliver some of these things, it's only be good for the health of people in the town to get this path up and running. It's something, I know it's come at the 11th hour. It's something which we should have done a long while ago, but we've pushed this forward a number of times. And it's suddenly David Chacklin's come back and is supportive of the idea. So I just think we've got to bite his arm off to get the thing going. If we look, we've had various budget discussions on various committees saying, we're in. However, we have a reserve there. We have an opportunity to lever in £9,000 of Norfolk County Council money to improve the lot of Thetford. I think we should. I would like to propose that we take the 9,000 from the general reserve and put it forward as a partnership scheme. Now, the idea of full council having to approve it, there was noises made that there'd be another full council meeting in December to approve other matters. So I think that can be tacked onto that if that's necessary.
Thank you very much for that. Are there others wishing to speak, please?
Hands up from Roy Brame.
Roy, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's lovely that these things are coming up, but we are actually, struggling on all committees to find the projects that we were going to do. I find it strange that this should be brought up at this committee, the only committee that doesn't have a budget. Perhaps it's something that we might like to look at for 21-22, that this committee has a budget if it's going to be used in this matter. I don't understand. This is not full council. I very rarely come because I have the problems with I don't wish to be predetermined on everything else. And then suddenly half of the council is here this evening, being asked to make a full council decision. So I take it that this is definitely only a proposal to full council, because it doesn't seem right to me that we're suddenly making these. Sorry, I haven't got the camera on just to prove that is me. I just find it strange that it's appearing at this committee. I have no problem with the idea, and I quite willingly talk to David and see. My other question is, whose land is that? Because I didn't think that was town council land. So why are we paying for some, or why are we asking our reserves and things to be found to look after Breckland? Shouldn't we go back to Breckland and say, come on, it's your land, you sort it out?
Hands up from Councillor Jeremy.
Thanks, Roy, and I'll move on to Terry now, please.
Followed by Councillor Wright again.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to answer a couple of the points there from Roy, I don't think there's been a single parish partnership project that we've delivered that has actually been on our land. If you look at the flashing speed signs that we part funded, they went on to Norfolk County Council street lights, lampposts, that sort of thing. And if you look at the Ford Street and down Gunnery Drive, the piece of work that we part funded down there, that was certainly either Breckland land or Norfolk land. It certainly wasn't town council land. So I think the precedent is clearly there. It's, as far as I know, and I was just having a quick look at the minutes from planning last year, I think for as long as parish partnership has existed, it's always gone through the planning committee. No idea why, possibly more appropriate to sit without, but actually it has always been dealt with through planning, and it doesn't overly matter where it gets dealt with as far as I'm concerned. Precedent suggests that planning is the one. And the other point, which has completely slipped out of my mind, no, can't remember, but just on the actual suggestion, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago that Jane Bishop, when she was the district councillor, just been elected to Priory Ward, she got me to go for a walk down there. It was so well used by Parkrun, and Jane was a volunteer with Parkrun at the time, and she said, you know, we really need to be putting a pathway in here. It's such a well used path, it's used regularly by Parkrun, and then obviously that fizzled out because Breckland didn't have any money to fund it. We have an opportunity here to lever in some money from Norfolk. We're always complaining that Norfolk don't invest enough in Thetford. Well, here's a way that we can lever in some. The downside is, of course, that we have to stump up some money ourselves. So it's always a chicken and egg situation. But there is a definite need for a path there. We have an opportunity to fund it. Even though it's owned by Breckland, the parish partnership is only available to parish councils. In our case, Thetford Town Council is not available to Breckland. Get frustrated by these rules and whatnot. So I think Stuart's suggestion is a very good one. I'm quite happy to second it. I'd love to see a pathway along there. But as he says, we've kind of missed the boat in terms of the official deadline. It could very well be that we agree to do this and Norfolk say, no, actually, you've missed the deadline, and we don't have to use the money at all from reserves anyway. But you know, we're here to get things done for people, and getting a new pathway put in along that stretch would seem like a good idea. So I'm quite happy.
Thank you very much.
Barreto, and then James, hands up.
Okay, so Stuart, next, please.
Yes, just going back to Roy's point about, I think Terry's answered it, that this parish partnership scheme has always been dealt with through planning. I don't think there's anything new here. We've tried to, bring ideas to the committee, and I think the reason I think it was in planning because it lent itself to footpaths and things like that, which tended to be, for the planning of the town. But I think that's the answer.
Thank you very much. Jane, would you like to comment, please?
I would, but I'm very mindful that Councillor Barreto was before me.
I'm sorry, Carla, if it was, I apologise. I'm not seeing you on screen, unfortunately, so I'm not able to tell if you've raised a hand, and I'm not on chat at the moment. So thanks for that, Jane. I'll ask you to come back in a minute. And Carla, it's your opportunity now, please.
Thank you, Sharon. Jane, that's not a problem. I actually was going to mention some points, but Councillor Jeremy has covered them. I was also going to mention that the fact that planning, we're supposed to be all the councillors here. So even though I understand this to address planning applications, it is an opportunity to put out any issues. Like Stuart said, it doesn't need to be supported or voted in now. It can be something we can look into, and then we just sort of link in with the next full council meeting towards December on the next opportunity. But I do see the fact that planning, it should, all the councils should attend in principle. It is for everybody. So if you want to put an idea out or a concept for people to consider, it is a good opportunity to do it. So it makes sense to raise the issue, even if we vote on it later. In regards to the path, obviously, we need a bit more information about what, you know, in order to take money from research, you need a bit more information that this is actually a good investment. But I do see the point of Councillor Wright and Jeremy saying that if the county is willing to put some money towards it, perhaps it's an opportunity for us to actually take their money, actually do something. I do take in consideration that quite often we're strained for cash, but we also, every time we turn to Breckland to try to find any improvements, we'd often find the answer is no, there's no funds available, as mentioned before. So if there's a source of getting some money in, even if we have to ship in some, if things do get done, I would be in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just ask this odd question? I did at one time, a few minutes ago, see Colin Burnett on screen. Has anyone heard from Colin or be aware that he's attending this meeting, or am I mistaken? Mark Webster, you haven't seen Colin appear, have you, at any stage, or speak at any stage?
I can't.
Colin is there.
See. Oh yeah, he's on. Yeah, he's muted at the moment, but shown as a participant. Yeah.
Okay, so in the event that we have a vote, can we make sure that we take it into consideration then, please?
I will.
So sorry, Jane, to delay you, but I think it's your turn now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to vent some serious frustration at this point. Over 2 months ago, the challenge was put to this committee about what you wanted to do for the parish partnership. In the summer, the initial letters were sent for the parish partnership scheme for the 2021-22 financial year. And we are sitting here on the 8th of December, bleating on about a project that we've spoken about, as has already been mentioned, over 5 years ago, and we still haven't got our ducks lined up in a row, and we still haven't got our business case together, and we still don't know what we want to do exactly because we don't have a firm plan. And I echo Councillor Barretto's thing that, yeah, actually we need more information before we make a decision. But for a project to have sat there and gone, yeah, it's quite nice for 5 years, I think it's actually really quite embarrassing for this town council. Either we want this project or we don't. And actually, if we want it, can we plan it properly and actually plan it into a schedule of works and work out where we're going to fund it from in advance? This is the reason why the parish partnership information comes out in the July time, so that, you know, town councils can factor it in for the forthcoming year for their plans and for their budgets. And actually, you know, the drop curb and that kind of thing was mentioned in October. And the challenge was put back to this committee, work out where you find the funding from, so you can present it to the finance committee, so it can be considered as part of the budget setting process, which this council agreed in the summer again. And I'm just incredibly frustrated that we just chucked something in at the 11th hour and let's see if it sticks. Can we just be a bit more savvy and actually get our ducks lined up in a row and actually do these things properly? Apologies, Mr. Chairman, rant over.
Thank you very much. I think I have to say I have been known to rant myself, so there's no question of any objection to what you said. It's a dose of cold water, but perhaps that was needed. I'm going to suggest that at the conclusion of this, I will ask for a vote. And I want to make sure that everybody is able to speak who wishes to do so. And I'd like to confirm that what this committee is able to do is not to make a decision, but to make a recommendation. And unless I'm incorrect on that, I'd be delighted to we can make a decision, but I take it would be a recommendation. Having said that, Mark, unless you want to speak on that, confirm it, or otherwise, I'll invite colleagues to say if there are any other opinions.
Couple of things. One, there's a hand up from Councillor Barretto, and also I'm getting a lot of background noise from someone. So could everyone just check that they're sort of muted if they're not speaking at the moment? Because I'm getting quite a lot of interference from somewhere. So yeah, hands up, Councillor Barretto.
Carla, would you like to comment again, please?
Very briefly, thank you, Chair. I do understand Councillor Jane when she's like a hawk. She has a eye for detail, and and we all aware how much she likes things organized well in advance. So I take her point on board. However, there are some circumstances going to arise where the opportunity sort of comes on the last minute, and if that's the case, and if there's money laying around that we can do things in town, we should grab it. I know ideally things would be planned a bit more in advance, and I would like a little bit more information about the project before I make a decision on it, obviously, to make an informed vote on any motion in the council. But if something comes up on the 11th hour, but if it's of worth and if it's an opportunity for the council, I'd say we take it. Other than that, I do want to reiterate the fact that I don't see a big difference between planning and the full council. All council should be here. Kudos to the ones that are. And if it is an opportunity for people to discuss things, and if that means, taking the opportunity to plan things ahead and actually discuss those issues so we can get a bit more of formal opinion about what's going to go in the future, I think we should consider actually having those discussions as soon as possible. And that would satisfy the need for organization of Councillor James and a few others, I would imagine. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are clearly imperfect in what we've been doing, and we clearly need to learn from it and do better next time around. And if that's the only achievement of Jane's comment, and she may of course achieve more than that, then that itself would be worth the self-determined rant, the reasonable comments made strongly and clearly, which we all heard. Are there any more comments, please, colleagues?
Nothing coming up on the chat.
If there are not, I'm going to suggest that we take a vote, and we need to be clear what we're voting for. Mark, can you confirm, please, that if we vote in order to take this forward, it would go next? Would it to full council, or would it have to go to finance next?
Well, the first thing that needs to be done, Chair, is that we need which reserve it's being you're going to make a request from needs to be identified. Councillor Wright, I think, mentioned general reserve. I don't know if Finance Committee members are able to say if that is actually a specific general reserve. Is that a thing that exists?
I would respectfully suggest that all councillors look at their reserving policy that they agreed. I believe it was around August, September time.
Okay, so as I said, we need to look at we need to identify a specific reserve. If you wish me to go away and request to one of the committees that we use their reserves for this, we need to identify which one that is, please.
Well, the suggestion we've had so far is what's described as general reserve, and that's as far as this committee is likely to be able to go this evening, I would think. I think it might be helpful to invite colleagues to vote, simply because whether it comes to anything or not, at least it shows the strength of feeling one way or the other. We may well be considerably influenced by what Jane has had to say. We may want to put down a marker. We may wish to really hope that actually it might go through despite all the difficulties. So I'm going to suggest that, unless we have any further comment, please. I think we've probably given it a fairly good area. Mark, did you say?
Councillor Brain, hands up. Sorry, Chair.
Roy, I'm not seeing you, but I'd like you to have an opportunity now, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Purely just to ask the question, I keep hearing everybody saying, wouldn't this be great to get Norfolk to spend money here? We're getting this right, that if it's an £18,000 bill, Deptford Town Council will be putting £9,000 into this, and I thought that in the summertime we did away with anything called a general reserve, and all committees were given their own reserves and their own budgets, and that's the way I understood the system had gone. But I'm looking for advice on that. And I don't quite see how we can put forward a proposal that we spend another £9,000, which I believe would be an increase of about 1% on a precept, but I'm not sure because I haven't had a chance to do the maths yet. Just seems a strange recommendation to make if we're just saying general reserve, which I don't believe exists anymore. If I could have some clarification before I vote, please.
Hands up from Councillor James.
Jane, your turn again, please.
Many thanks, Mr. Chairman. I have sat in many meetings where something has been suggested without any information, no paperwork, no background, no business plan, no idea of where the money's coming from, and it's been overturned. I cannot believe that this council is about to suggest that we vote on something that we have no information to base that decision on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment, please?
Nothing coming up on the chat. Yeah.
Right. I think having twice.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Hands up, Councillor Barreto.
I think this is going to be the last one. Paula. Sorry, Carla. Again, please.
Thank you, Chair. Jane, I do understand your point. A bit more information in order to make an informed decision would be good. May I suggest that perhaps we can get some information about this, perhaps identify a pot of funds, general funds. Well, according to you, general funds don't quite exist anymore, but there are reserves available to the different committees, especially since we reshuffled the committees, so they all have their own reserves. Perhaps it can be that we can source part of the reserve from two committees, like a cross-committee effort to get the money, the £9,000 required. To whether or not it's going to be approved, this is for every councillor on his own to vote, and hence trying to, the idea of putting this forward to the next full meeting. Perhaps if we can line things up as where we're going to get the funds, even if it's from more than one committee reserves, what is going to be done, and what's the benefit to the town as a whole, and get this through to the next full council meeting. Perhaps we can all make a decision, then actually vote on it, whether to go ahead with it or not, as democratically as we can, rather than being all upset about it, because this was an idea. We're not being asked to vote on it, as far as I'm concerned here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hands up from Councillor Hollis, Chair.
Thank you. Jen, come forward, please.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm sitting here listening and taking all this in. And one, I agree, we've not got the information. It's been stuck on our lap straight away. Two, we've just gone through the budgets to try and find where we can cut things that we need to do, or to stop the precinct from rising up. And now we're being asked to go into a reserve budget from these committees and spend that. And if the committees are not going to be able to complete their projects because of, or they've got to defer a project or something because of trying to save, that affects the whole of Thetford, the people of Thetford. And now we're talking about participating in a project, which I'm not knocking the project, it's a good project, and the idea of where the scheme is wanted is a good idea, but I can't see, we're saying we're sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you like. We just can't do it, but I would like to see proper information on that one as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another hands up, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to be a pain. I'm just looking for clarification now. I'm looking at our revised budget, and it says summary of reserves, and at the bottom there's a thing called general reserves with nearly 240,000 quid in it. What is that? If we haven't got a general reserve fund, then it's written at the bottom of the summary reserves page here.
So as councillors will recall from agenda item 17920 of the July meeting of the Finance Committee that was then ratified by full council at the end of July, the general reserve should not be less than 25%, which is 3 months of annual operating expenditure, excluding contributions to reserves and expenditure funded from reserves. This is linked to the level of annual expenditure, excluding the contributions and expenditure from the reserves. We very specifically have classified the reserves in terms of asset renewal reserves, future projects reserves, earmarked reserves and then the general reserve, which is very, very specifically linked to 25% of annual operating expenditure. And that is the, oh my goodness, we've all gone to hell in a handcart scenario, frankly, if you'll pardon the colloquialism. The email, I believe it was attached to the what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, the minutes of the meeting from July. Yeah, 17920 is the agenda item. It should still be out there in cyber world for people to refer to, and it clearly lays out the town council's need for reserves and their purpose. Because I mean, as Terry will recall, we had a considerable discussion about the Sven Close reserve and what exactly that was for. And this is to stop, you know, the things being lost in the myths of time and devoted to legend, what that could have been used for, so that actually our committees and our councillors and our officers and the general public know exactly what we're doing with our money. Thank you.
Yeah, it is another hands up, Chair, from Councillor Jeremy.
Terry, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, I shall be brief, Mr. Chairman, because I appreciate you want to move on and move to the vote, which I think would be wise. I'd simply say that somebody once said to me, there are some in life that have a problem for every solution. I often find that at town council meetings, and I find it very sad. And I often wish people would use their considerable energies in favour of getting something done rather than working against things, but that's just a general observation. I think, Stuart, might be best to be, if the recommendation was worded in such that we identify that there is a willingness amongst members to do this project, which I think is the most important thing. If there's not a willingness to proceed with this project, there's utterly no point in identifying reserves, identifying landowners' permission, or even submitting an application to Norfolk. What I think Stuart's trying to achieve is an indication that the council wants to pursue this. And then if it is indeed a recommendation to full council, is to ask officers for advice on the most appropriate reserve that can be used for this. I often find that we try to make decisions in the blind without advice, and it is for others to give us advice on what reserves or funding is available to us. But I think what Stuart's trying to achieve is, do we want to proceed with this and submit an application? It will then be a recommendation to full council, by which point the reserve can be identified. And hey, look, it may be that Norfolk County Council don't want to entertain it anyway, but we're going to need to show a willingness that we want to do something if we can, rather than just a flat no.
Thank you. Any more, please? I'll give it a brief. Okay, what I'm going to ask is that we take a formal vote with Chris presiding, and see whether there is a willingness to go ahead with this, or a willingness to recognise the issues that have been raised, and perhaps come back to it another time. So, Chris Crimmen, can you please take a vote, please?
Do we not have a proposer and a seconder anymore in the actual proposal read out?
We can try. Thank you for that, Jane. I take it that Stuart was making the proposal. Is that correct, Stuart?
I was making the proposition to, as Terry has said, yeah, whatever Paris Partnership Scheme, we've always had no budget to go with it. We've always put the ideas forward. And then we've identified the budgets or the money where it's coming from at a later date. But usually we start to, at this meeting, put the proposal forward, and if we like the idea, then it's taken up to find out where it's financed from. Otherwise, it's dropped. So yes, that proposal is to: are we willing to support this scheme? If not, then it dies. If we are willing to support it, then we refer it to officers to look to where funding maybe get to take it forward. But as we've said, it may die a death anyway, because Norfolk may not put it on their list and then may not come up to support it anyway. But because of the timescale involved on the Norfolk bids, we really need to show a willingness now to take it forward. Presumably, if we don't have any finance and we don't have the finance bid approved, then we can pull it from Norfolk's bid and we just lose their match funding and the thing doesn't happen. So yes, the proposal is to show support for this scheme, and in which case to ask officers to identify where reserves can be, money can take from reserves.
Given that we're in an imperfect situation and we might want to revise the system for next year, can I accept that as a proposal and ask, is there anyone willing to second that proposal?
I'm happy to second that, Chairman. It's Terry.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Jane, as always, for keeping us on the straight and narrow. So it may be appropriate now to come to a vote. When I asked before, I didn't get a response from Chris Crimmen. Is Chris Crimmen around here, please?
I'm sorry, I did speak and I was on there. I did say that right at the beginning of that debate, there was a proposer and a seconder by Stuart and by Councillor Jeremy as well. So we can go into the vote now then.
Yes, please.
I was talking into a mute phone, I'm sorry about that. So Councillor Bretto, for, against or abstain?
I'm for the proposal.
Yeah. Councillor Brame?
Against.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, Chair, in a minute. Is Councillor Burnett in the room? No, I haven't heard from him at all. So, Councillor Harvey?
For.
Councillor Hollis?
Sorry, I'm going to abstain till I get further information.
Thank you. Councillor James?
Against on the grounds that I do not have enough information to make this decision.
Councillor Jeremy?
For.
Councillor Wright?
For.
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 for it, and 1, 2 against. So 4, 2 abstain.
Thank you very much for that count, Chris. That means we put forward this somewhat imperfect proposal to full council as a recommendation. It means that we all come back to it and with our colleagues can decide whether there's any merit in it and whether the merit is this year or another time. Thanks very much for all the views that have been expressed, some quite contrary one to another. I accept that. I hope we all can accept that there is a view has been taken and that we follow that up. So that concludes the discussion on item 595. We're on to 596 now, which is the committee officers update, please.
Yeah, not much to say about this, Chair, just that I mean, this is an out project, as has been pointed out, but the Castle Park Trim Trail, we did submit the additional information before the requested by Historic England to Bretton Planning. They've said they want some little extra time for that process for Historic England to look at that and come back to them. So a decision on that is expected by the December. So that's for the trim trail, and that's the only sort of update I have in addition to what's already been said. Hands up, Councillor Wright.
Stuart, please.
Yeah, just as any other business really before we close, but I don't know whether Mark's got anything further to say.
No, that's all from me, Chair.
Mike, if I may indulge the committee, just to make people aware, obviously we had the email around about sad news of Colin Arms died. I was contacted by the family today to ask if the town flag could be used over the coffin at the funeral. I put that request to the town clerk and copied in the chair of civic. I got a response from the town clerk saying that there was no entitlement for the former mayor to have the flag draped over the coffin, something we haven't done for former mayors. There is provision with the civic ceremonial handbook to fly the flag at half-mast on the day of the funeral. Before I went back to the family to say that we weren't going to offer the flag, I did want to make sure that councillors were aware of the request and if there was any feeling that we would allow the flag to be used.
Thank you very much. It is a very sad event. Colin was a tremendous servant of this town and did a great deal to improve the town and spent enormous energy and time to improve the town. If there are colleagues who feel want to support what the family has requested. We can't, of course, be taking a vote or considering that at this meeting formally, so it would be a question of approaching the town clerk for clarification or for a change of view. But at the moment, the view that she must remain the town council's policy. So, with thanks for the sad news and for the way you put it, Stuart. I think that concludes that item. We do have community engagement at item number 597 still to deal with. If there are, although it doesn't appear to be on the screen, it's on the printed version. So can I just...
it's only because I haven't got any comment on it, Chair.
I'll just simply ask, for safety's sake, in case you printed version, is there any wish to have any consultation or media release as a result of this meeting? I think the normal reaction is no. I think that's
There's a hands up from Councillor Barretto, Chair.
Okay, we have a possibility then. Carla, would you like to comment, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry. You just should have jumped. I was just making a comment regarding Stuart's point regarding the passing Colin Arms. Just a quick question. Does anybody know how many years did Colin Arms served as a councillor? That's a question I had because I wasn't sure. I know it was a lot of years. And the other one, whilst I understand is the policy that the flag that shouldn't be used in previous mayors. I wonder if there's any way that it can be considered, or the rules could be rewritten in some way for people that served after a certain number of years, particularly for those that dedicated part of their lives to the council and to the welfare of the town. That was just my personal opinion.
I think we're in a difficult situation here, colleagues. I think the issue's been raised, and I accept responsibility for raising it. We cannot be making decisions, and I don't think that any further discussion of it is likely to yield much light. Can I suggest that if I'm trying to work out what the interruption is. Well, if colleagues wish to make further comments, they should be directed, please, to clarification from the town clerk. We do have a full council meeting in the near future. It might be possible to take the issue up there if you wish to do so. But in the meantime, I'm going to assume that there is no other community engagement. None's been to.
There's a comment from Chris Harmey also requesting the use of the flag, and hands up from Jane James.
Okay. Jane, did you want to make a comment, or are you agreeing with the comment that it would be good to use the flag?
No, I believe it would be an inappropriate use to use the flag. That would mean that we would not be able to do the correct thing, which is to fly it at half-mast on the day of the funeral, which is permitted to us under the Civic Ceremonial Handbook and under convention. Should anybody wish to discuss this further, I am happy to help them understand flag protocol and support them in their understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very helpful indeed. And with that remark, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to suggest that the meeting is concluded, and therefore I close the